Welcome back. So, there was an event vehicle that came out a few months ago that I got, but I haven't really played with it much until now, and that is the T34-100. And it's a vehicle I was really looking forward to. It's just, things happened. I wasn't really playing Russia a whole lot at the time. I had a while there where I was playing a ton of America, even though America really did suffer at the time. Um, and then I was, helping my mom move and all that jazz. So, anyway, the moral of the story is I've been sitting on this thing for a while. I've been meaning to talk about it. I haven't, and now we're going to talk about it. So, what is the T34-100? Well, according to its description, it is an experimental modification of the T-34 with a 100mm LB1 cannon, and development stopped at the prototype stage after testing. You're getting about 30 rounds for it. I think it's split between like APHE BC or APHE, something like that. HE and smoke. I think you've got like 3 or 4 smoke shells, something like that. So your ammo count does feel kind of low, and admittedly, this is a tank that suffers from the traditional communist issue in that there is no depression in the Soviet Union. 0. Depression levels, 0. On paper, it sounds like a great benefit to the state, but I promise you, as somebody driving this tank, 0 depression is not the great benefit that the Politburo thinks it is. So, memeing aside, the issue with this tank is that when you get onto hills, you can't look down. And if they're in a valley, if you're climbing up a hill, like, it can be very annoying to use. You have to use your terrain to, like, prop the ass end of the tank up so that you can look down. The other issue with this tank is that it masquerades as being a medium tank, but in reality, what it is a tank destroyer. And what I mean by that is that it has a very effective, very potent gun. However, its armor is severely lacking. It's 45, 45, 45 for the front, sides, and rear. It's got 20 on the bottom, which kind of is irrelevant. The turret is a little bit better. It's 54 on all the sides and 15 on top. And it doesn't feel bad driving it around. Even though it's got a big chonker of a gun in there, it still feels about as mobile as a T-34 should feel. It's nice that you actually have a commander view where you can look in front of the tank. So, congratulations, you are not suffering. There are some T-34s out there where you can't look in front of you as the commander, and it is awful, and I hate every second of driving them. Even though some of them can be very potent in-game, the fact that I can't see in front of the tank as the commander is awful. But this one doesn't suffer from that, so that's a good thing. As far as dealing with other tanks, I don't really find a whole lot of issue with it. The 100mm cannon does very well. You can pretty much take out anything that you look at. You might have to aim a little bit against your thicker opponents, but anything like a Panther or lower, you can pretty much just point and click. And you have a very good chance of one-shotting them, and if you don't one-shot them, you'll probably two-shot them. But it's a very potent gun with very potent ammo. And as far as dealing with infantry, it's a good option. It is. The downside to this tank, like I mentioned before, is, besides not being able to look down and whatnot, is that you don't carry enough ammo to be like a really, really good infantry support tank. You do, however, have all of the benefits of being a 100mm gun. And what I mean by that is if you look at the 122s, the 122s slap, and it's really fun being able to just slap. But they have reload times that are so long that I can grow a beard down to my belt, alright? And this is nice because you get a lot of the benefits in anti-tank capability that you pick up going from the 85 to the 122 without having all of the drawbacks of the reload time. And when you look at your alternatives, you're competing against like the IS-1, the IS-2, the T34-85, and the premium SU-100. Well, if you look at the premium SU-100, it has a lot of the same benefits that you're going to find on this tank. It's going to be a very effective tank destroyer. You know, it's going to punch through most of the armor that you see, but it also suffers from a low ammo count, an inability to look down. It's even more hampered because it doesn't have a turret, so you have to turn the whole tank. The, you know, armor chassis is not phenomenal. It's good enough, but it's not phenomenal. But you're also, because you're a hull lock tank destroyer in the positioning of the gun, you're also shorter with the gun. So in some of the more urban maps, you can get into issues where you can't pull off shots that you would want to because there's debris or vehicles or rubble or whatever in the way. And that's less of an issue with the T34, not just because the gun itself is mounted a lot higher, but also because the tank itself is more mobile and the tank has a turret, so you can deal with more difficult terrain and urban environments because you can move around them and you can aim. So compared then to like the IS-2. The IS-2 is probably, as long as you can play the peekaboom play style and you don't mind reloading for an eternity, it's probably your best like Control-Alt-Delete tank available to you, because you can look at a Tiger II and delete it. You can look at an infantry formation and make them and all of their cousins a mile away go kaput. So you can argue whether it's better or worse. I would argue that it's generally speaking better because I can fire more shots more rapidly. You can also argue that it's worse because the armor's worse and the gun you have to be more precise with. And you don't have a Dishka. Not having a Dishka is a big drawback. I like having a Dishka. That being said, I don't think that the armor on the IS-2 stands up particularly well to anything, so if I'm already going to get penetrated by everything that shoots at me, having less armor doesn't really faze me much, because I'm already getting penetrated by every Panther that looks at me, so, eh. So this is basically to say, I think it's a good tank, I like it. I think it's, across the board, an upgrade over the T34-85. It's just better. And I think it's competitive with the top tier Soviet offerings, whether you look at the premium or the non-premium. Which isn't to say that, like, the SU-100 is bad. I think the SU-100 is great. I like having a turret. So it was definitely worthwhile to grind this tank out. I've had pretty good experiences with it. I do feel vulnerable in it. It is kind of a tin can that, you know, blows up at the first sign of anything hitting it. I mean, there are times when I've just had, like, the gun broken and the treads blown off, so... You know, it's an enlisted tank. In my experience, and I've mentioned this before, but tanks in enlisted, it doesn't matter how good they are. You can take, like, a Tiger 2H, right? And you're still basically a glass cannon. Like, the tools are available in the game for most nations that if they decide that you're a problem and they don't want you to exist, then they can sit there the entire game and make sure that you don't get a chance to exist all game. Like, the tools, the option, it's all there. So I don't think this feels any like worse than any other tank, and in a lot of ways I think it feels better than other tanks. So if you have it, let me know what your experience has been with it. My experience has been pretty good. Admittedly, I feel like Russia is not winning as much right now as I would like them to be. I feel like it's pretty normal for enlisted. There's a stronger or a larger German population, but hey, with all of the event squads that Russia's gotten this year, maybe we'll see that change. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games. Oh, and, you know, let me know. Do you give weapons to your tank crews? Sometimes I do, just because I've got extra stuff laying around, but to be honest, I expect my tank crews to go down with the tank, so a lot of the time I just don't bother giving them weapons. But let me know.
Наши силы на позиции.